It's a time of changes. Now is the time to move on. This is the time for solutions. Feel the motion. BNEW is born. BNEW, none of you. No one connected to you. BNEW, none of you. BNEW will do it for you. This is the time for solutions. BNEW is for you.
Muy buenos días, les damos la bienvenida desde el plató de Aviation en esta última jornada del Barcelona New Economy Week, en su quinta edición. Les saludamos desde el edificio del D-Factory en Barcelona. Pues bien, vamos a hablar del sector aeroespacial. Así arrancamos esta mañana. En las últimas décadas el espacio ha dejado de ser pues, un lugar exclusivo de gobiernos y también de agencias espaciales para abrirse también a nuevos mercados y que con lo cual pues, se pueda también innovar en este sentido. Una innovación accesible a empresas y a sectores de todos los tamaños. La nueva economía del espacio, que es así como se llama el New Space, también ha servido de catalizador para que precisamente se vaya pues, apostando hacia nuevos mercados de negocio. Se necesita, por lo tanto, pues, tecnología e innovación para alcanzar estos objetivos. Vamos a ver el impacto también que tiene el sector aeroespacial en el mercado. Vamos a los datos. Por ejemplo, hoy en día el sector espacial global genera más de 400.000 millones de dólares anuales y se espera que esta cifra se pueda duplicar para 2040. Aquí ven con estas cifras también el impacto que tiene el sector en este sentido. El New Space ha abierto una nueva era para la ciencia, para la tecnología y para la economía. Los datos lo demuestran, pero hoy vamos a profundizar en ello. Para ello tenemos que saludar a los ponentes y la moderadora de esta primera mesa del día que nos van a dar las claves para entender a qué desafíos se enfrenta este sector. Claudia Mateo, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos. Bienvenida al BNEW. Ella es responsable de negocio del sector espacial de la Fundació Privada IDOSCAT y es la persona que hoy va a conducir esta sesión. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos.
Gracias a vosotros.
Y saludo también a los expertos en la materia y del sector, que van a ser las personas que nos arrojen luz también y nos ayudéis a entender en qué situación nos encontramos y cuál es el trabajo que hay por delante y el trabajo que también están haciendo las empresas. Así que os dejo con Claudia. Vamos a estar atentos a vuestras explicaciones. Hasta ahora.
Muchas gracias. So we are going to continue this panel in English because New Space is a very international economy and we are also hoping that we have some international viewers. So as Elizabeth was saying, for decades, the space sector has evolved thanks to the space agencies, investments, and large industrial groups. But times have changed. And today, there are new economic models that are emerging, and they are enabling private companies to enter the space market in what we call the new space economy. But what has actually changed, and what does this mean? So there are two main reasons that make space now more accessible than ever before. First one is we are talking about smaller and cheaper satellites. That's thanks to technological advances like miniaturization of electronics, new materials, or, for example, AI on board. And the second factor is that we have more availability and launches are also more affordable. So this combination of factors have brought democratization to the space market. This means that today more sectors are considering satellites to solve problems that until now they were not possible to be solved. And opening the space market to other markets means that we are bringing in new concepts, new business models, new ideas, and new uses for the space technology. For example, satellites are drastically changing the way we connect. So we are seeing now a lot of new mega constellations that are allowing us to reach global connectivity. And this means that we can get access to internet, for example, in underserved areas, rural areas, or places that are remote. But not everything consists in launching more satellites or having more satellites in orbit. New space also means how to use data that we already have from existing satellites in different ways. That's, for example, the case for many Earth observation satellites that provide very valuable information and in a variety of disciplines like climate change monitoring, emergency response, or agriculture. And for example, we also have the example of position and navigation satellites that provide us location services or navigation services. And this, for example, can provide high precision location on ground. That, for example, means that we can have autonomous robots that can do some work in an autonomous way. For example, I'm talking about I2CAT. We develop pilots where we apply satellite connectivity to solve challenges related to communications. We do this in a range of sectors because we want to showcase and demonstrate that satellite connectivity can solve problems that we have today. Likewise, the panelists that we have today here with us will give us 4 concrete examples of 4 national companies on how they are using space technologies and space data in other sectors and how they are unlocking new uses for this space technology and space data. For example, in sectors so different as the blue economy, climate change, industry, logistics, mobility, or smart cities. So I'm just gonna go ahead and introduce our panelists here that were very kind to join us today and will explain to us how they are working in this field. So here first on my side there is Bernat Janet. He is CTO at Spascat. Bernat is a degree-educated computer engineer specialized in machine learning and data science. He studied in Barcelona in the Polytechnic and in France in Eurecom. After spending a few years working in the maritime industry in Monaco, together with his partner Roger Huerta, he decided to found Spascat with the objective of bringing Earth observation closer to the users. Next to him, we find Ernest Artiaga. He is Chief Software Architect at Albora Technologies. Ernest is a computer scientist with a strong background in high-performance computing, including parallel and distributed systems, middleware and operating systems, and also brought experience in project management and software development. He's deeply interested in R&D, especially related to space applications and exploration. Ernest has been working in high-tech projects for a long, long time. He was one of the system architects for the Mare Nostrum supercomputer and has contributed to several open source projects. Now he's currently leading the software architecture at Albora. Next to him, we have Josep Laborda. He's the co-founder and CEO at Factual. Josep is a telecommunications engineer, also studied in Barcelona in the Polytechnic. Josep has been focused on mobility since 2008, first working at RAC Mobility Club, and since 2019, leading his own consulting firm on mobility issues. He has been involved in more than 30 European R&D projects in connected, cooperative, and automated driving, intersection of space technology with mobility, road safety, mobility as a service, and mobility data management. And last but not least, we have Laura Moreno. She is the founder and the CEO of EarthPulse. She's also a telecommunications engineer, and she has more than 15 years experience in the space sector. Laura started her career in the telecom industry before joining the European Space Agency, where she worked on Earth observation satellites and on projects that were focusing on environmental monitoring. This experience was that ignited her to start EarthPulse, where she combines her deep technical insights, analyzing satellite data, with her leadership experience. She's a problem solver, and she would like to make satellite data analytics a commodity. That's a statement. So I would like to ask all of our panelists to give us an idea of what do their company do, and how does space technology and space data is of use in all your products or your services. So I'll start with Bernat.
Right. So we defined ourselves as new space enablers. What we mean by that is that there's companies, institutions, public institutions that may know that this data exists, that it's there, that may even be useful for their purposes, but they don't have a means to access it, to process it, to understand how to include it in their sector. So for example, I'll give you a concrete example. You may have a township that knows that there's satellite data, and they are interested, it's near the coast, so they're interested to know how much surface of sand, of beach sand they have. But they don't know how to download this data. Even if they had the data downloaded, then they had the image, but they would have to draw or calculate manually. So we provide a low complexity solution for them to access this data and be able to make decisions on that. So our focus is in bringing even lower the complexity of access to the new space data, as you said at the beginning, so that we further democratize the access to all of this amazing innovation.
Okay. So Bernat is talking about using Earth observation data, for example, in use for coastal...
Exactly, for coastal
activities.
erosion. So, for example, if we're talking about this town that has this beach that they are interested because maybe they have a restaurant there, or they have a cocktail bar, and or they just want to know how much surface they have so that people, how many people it fits, no? So you can use satellite data, so the Earth observation satellites that every 5 days they're circling and passing and taking a picture, but how to access that, how to process that, how to automatize that, here's where we come in. Exactly.
So I think Laura can also add to this, because
Sure.
your company also works in the same type of data, but in different purposes. So what does EarthPulse do?
Yeah, EarthPulse has a vision very similar to the company of Bernat in the end. We focus on delivering insights for our clients in a very actionable and usable way. We are not focusing in the maritime sector. We are like more transversal, and our focus, as I said, is the usability, delivering insights to our clients, which are normally governments or insurance company or utility companies, in order that they can be like making informed decisions based in this kind of data. Also, I mean, they are, of course, used to rely on data, and more lately for making informed decisions. But this data, it's like the unknown one, the complex one. And so we are focusing on delivering the very usable way to exploit it. And even something a little bit different, we are delivering not only like the data, the exploitable data, but the means for them to exploit it without knowledge. I mean, we're delivering a platform for them that enables the final user to extract the information with zero knowledge.
Can you give us an example?
Of course. I mean, for the insurance company, for example, what they want to do, it's like for the claim management, do some contrasts, or for the underwriting policies. For utility companies, for example, they want to know their assets. Their assets are like on the land, for example, and depending on where they are, they have a different exposure. Let's say that they have a different risk, depending, of course, where they are. And so they want to know the ones that they have to inspect before the others. That's two examples that are like normal ones. And we have very, very uncommon examples as well, like for the global supply chains. And for business intelligence, even cosmetic firms want to know what's the water stress on the area, because the showering habits change. So that's very, very strange applications, but that's a result of trying to push this data into industries that normally don't use it.
Talking about industries that maybe don't use space data, Josep, what do you say about mobility? How does space get into that?
No, thank you for the introduction and for inviting us. So in mobility, I mean, space technologies are very ubiquitous. Not many people are actually aware of how important space technologies are in urban mobility. But for example, think of when you use an application and it says that your next bus is coming in 1 minute 24 seconds. This is because there is a navigation service embedded on that specific bus that makes use of satellite technology for navigation purposes, that determines the accurate positioning of that bus, and it tells you, based on your actual position as an end user, when the next bus is coming, and it gives you comfort that you know what is happening around you. So this is only a very common example how space technologies are impacting our everyday lives when it comes to mobility. Let me start also by making a bit of an introduction what we do. So Factual is an innovation consultancy specialized in mobility. That's the reason why we are here today. And in recent years, we've been working closely with one of the European agencies for space, or the EUSPA. And we've been coordinating and leading a few innovation research projects funded by the European Commission and managed by the USPA, such as Julia project, which is a current project that we are coordinating together with a bunch of partners, including EarthPulse. And we're glad to be here and share some of the experiences that we are having, leveraging, for example, Galileo and also Copernicus-based applications in the context of urban mobility. And again, make it more visible and more evident how important space technologies are in our everyday lives.
Thank you, Josep. And last but not least, Ernest, what does Albora Technologies do, and how do you make use of space data and space technologies?
Okay, so we work in a different branch rather than Earth observation. Actually, we work with navigation and geolocation, which actually has a big impact in mobility, as Josep was saying. Our vision is that we pretend to provide reliable geolocation everywhere and for everyone. And that's a big difference with the current situation. Because, yes, we have had GPS satellites for a long time. Now we have a Galileo constellation from the European Space Agency. But the devices that we need to get a good position are still complex and are expensive. And that means that you cannot use them everywhere. So, for example, it's good to have one of these navigation systems in a bus. But imagine that you have to track all the public service e-scooters that are in a city in Barcelona that have a very low cost, and you cannot use a very expensive equipment in one of these low-cost systems. And also, you don't have a few of them, you have lots of them. So what we are doing is that we are filling the gap between very simple hardware that can be very cheap, very low cost, very energy efficient, and we are using the power of edge computing, cloud computing, to complement this basic hardware to provide a reliable, high accuracy for everyone, and make this available from IoT devices to mobile phones to transportation systems, and this is what we are focusing on doing right now. Regarding the space technology that we use, obviously we are getting the information from the satellites that are there. We couldn't work without that. So that's
Okay, so, but just to follow up on what you're saying, you're not only working on localization services for mobility, but also in other sectors like industry or logistics that may also need these services and maybe more reliable. That's probably what you're saying, that you need more reliability in some of these environments?
exact. So geolocation is a technology that is very transversal. So mobility is one of the applications, but it also has applications in agriculture, for example, in managing herds/herds, where you can maybe have livestock with even millions of units that you need to know that they are in a particular area. You want to know, for example, in the case of mobility, where people is using the roads or how they are using the roads, which speeds they are using, how can you optimize or prevent traffic jams, for example. Or in the case of logistics, you want to know if some of your assets, some of your machinery has been moved. So you need. So if we talk, for example, about sustainability, one of the keys to sustainability is being efficient in managing things. And for being efficient in managing things, you need to know where those things are. So this is the kind of information that we are providing.
All right. Thank you, Ernest. You touched on sustainability, which is a very hot topic at the moment. And Earth observation, I'm circling back, is key in helping, I would say, humanity in dealing with sustainability and a lot of the challenges we have on climate change, for example. So one of the things that SpaceCat is doing that caught my attention, and that's why I invited them to this panel, is because they are working what we call the blue economy. And they are focusing a couple of their products on services, information data, that is very focused on coastlines and how to manage coastlines. We are in Barcelona. Barcelona is a city open to the sea, and most of Spain is, well, we are a peninsula, so we have a lot of coastal lines, and this is something that has to be managed. You were mentioning before examples of how much sun is in a beach, so that you can see if a restaurant can be built there or not. So can you give us a few more examples of how do you work with the images from satellites, how you derive this information, and how can that be useful for who are your users, who uses your information and for what?
Sure. So if we circle back to the example that we're talking about, this township, this is a very easy example. No, we have our user is the mayorship or even the Cartographic Institute. Like we, for example, work with the Cartographic Institute of Catalonia to try to do this exact use case that we were saying. But there's more things than that. For example, another thing that you can achieve with satellite data is what is called bathymetry, which is the mapping of the seafloor. So usually this is done, how it's done classically, is that you have a boat or you have maybe even a plane that has a sonar, and it's going slowly but surely, doing all of the coastline all the time so that you can get the mapping. But with Earth observation satellites, you have that the bands of the different frequencies and how they interact with the water, you can even infer this so you can get a map, maybe not as precise, but yes, much quicker and much cheaper, so that you can, for example, track the sand dunes that are underwater. So you're not tracking only the surface of the sand that you're seeing, but you also track the reservoirs of sand that are underwater. And with this, you can see, for example, if there's a town next to you that built a structure to try to protect their beach so that their sand doesn't disappear, but you can see then, week by week, how this sand is accumulating here, and the town next, like 3 towns down, is losing this sand. So over a year, one beach may have grown 20 meters, the other one has lost 40 meters of sand. So if you track not only the coastline, but also what is underwater, you can also use satellite data for that. And even a further case, there's talks now about what is called blue carbon. No, we have all heard about green carbon, like how trees can capture and sequestrate carbon and keep it. But there's also, like underwater, there's algae, there's Posidonia and all those things which capture this carbon. So with satellite imagery, you can train machine learning models. So you get the image, you process it with machine learning models, and you locate in which places and how much surface of these algae plots you have underwater. These are all examples of using Earth observation for the blue economy.
Okay, thank you. Also, I go back to Laura.
Yeah, because it's all related.
It's all related, yes. You mentioned in Earth Pulse that you use AI for you, which is a very nice and snazzy buzzword, but it, in a nutshell, is that you combine artificial intelligence with Earth observation. Can you tell us a bit more for the audience? How do you do that? How do you combine these two technologies, and what can you get out of it?
Yeah, it was back 2019 where with my actual business partner, we started to see this combination. He's an expert on AI, and I was the expert on Earth observation, and in the end, AI, it's an enabler. This technology enables like a fast processing and many other things that you couldn't just do before. And you can build a lot of data sets and do some automatic labeling of the data sets, and then build models that delivers you information that if you apply normal processing to Earth observation, you may, I don't know, say processing the data and doing supervised visualization during months, and instead you can do it in minutes. You have to train the models, you have to do a lot of things, but enables a lot of uses and possibilities that it weren't just possible before, and you have AI, you can put it in the processing, you can put it in the interaction with, we all know GTP now, but the natural language models, are very useful to decrease the complexity of usage as well, okay? And you can use agents now that make you make like little orders and what if scenarios. If that happens, then apply this, otherwise this other thing. And it enables, as I said, a lot of new applications, and that's why AI for EOS stands for Artificial Intelligence for Earth Observation, and it's just two technologies that together make a very good combination.
Thank you, Laura. I'll just go back to one of my first questions because I think it's
Sustainability.
yes, about sustainability. Can you give us an example of one of your products or services that can be used to support sustainability actions? I know you work a lot for governments and insurance companies and finance as well. So how do these things come together? You know,
Yeah.
how do you help them?
In the end, I mean, climate change is here, and so regulations are. And climate change poses a lot of challenges. It's accelerating, of course, these natural extreme events like the Milton hurricane today, I think. And well, of course, it has a huge financial impact. And you can, if you can prevent the impact, not the event, but the impact only, it could really make down the losses and everything. So it's very important to foresee or calculate the risk and exposure. For example, yeah, for government or insurance, there are many examples, very known, but now there's a very new, not new, but what it's really increasing now, it's like in the global supply chains. It's a nice example because it's like the two-way, no? In one way, you want to understand how those events can disrupt your supply chains globally, and what options you may have. Like, okay, if that provider is at a high risk or it's unable because it has these problems, what can I do not to disrupt my supply chain? Or if this route, it's like impractical, where can I go through my products? I mean, what can I do in order to not disrupt or keep low the risk of disrupting my supply chains? And that's one way, what I'm exposed. And the other way that it's working very well right now, and it's because of directives and laws, it's what does my supply chain does to the land in terms of degradation, deforestation, etc. And that's regulated. That are like laws coming now and in order now. And so, for example, everything that comes to Europe in terms of cotton, sugar, wood, and many other materials have to be controlled and have to have some certifications. And that's only possible with satellite data because you have to certify that that coffee comes from a parcel that in 2020 wasn't deforested. And so you have to go back in time and you can do it with this type of data. So supply chain in one way and in the other are a great example of sustainability risks and certifications.
Thank you. I think that example was really, for me, was very interesting to hear. Sustainability and mobility. This is also a key topic. I know it's a trend, but you, Josep, as well, is involved in many European initiatives and working groups that you deal a lot with mobility problems and smart cities, and sustainability is a key issue in the cities of the future. So can you tell us a bit more on how a company like yours is helping to, I would say, redesign or rethink how our cities have to become to be more sustainable?
Indeed. This is indeed a very relevant topic. The climate emergency is a reality. And for example, there is a figure that in Europe, 1/3 approximately on average of CO2 emissions come from or are kind of somewhat directly related to ill-designed transportation systems, right? So there's a lot of innovation that can be put into improving transportation systems so that they are less contributors to emissions in cities and low air quality. And for example, one of the most well-accepted ways to reduce emissions in cities when it comes to transportation is to improve public transport systems, right? So public transport is regarded as the most efficient way of moving lots of people in our cities in a way that is efficient in all senses, right? But again, if you want to have high-quality public transportation systems, you need to make sure that they are reliable, that they come on time, that they have no issues, that they're well managed, that the fleets of buses and trains and trams and whatnot are very well managed. And if you want to have these fleets of vehicles well managed and provide a high-quality service, you you need to rely, among many other technologies, you do need to rely on satellite technology because you need to know where your assets are, where your vehicles are, how well operated they are. And I will give you one concrete application that we're working on these days on this project that I mentioned earlier, Julia. So public transport has a lot of room for improvement. That is well known. We have all seen eventually those buses that kind of drive empty or almost empty without no passengers. There is a bus line that is not carrying that many passengers, and this is an inefficiency. No? So how do you solve these things? You can solve these things, for example, by implementing digital technologies that basically pair service requests from users with existing available vehicles that can serve this request in a digital way, so pairing passengers with vehicles in a much more efficient way. So basically, this is called demand responsive transit, so also known as bus on demand. So instead of relying on typical regular lines where the bus is coming at a fixed time schedule at a fixed location, so a bus stop. Instead of that, you can request a trip from A to B using a smartphone that geolocates you as a user, and it is critical that the user geolocation and the geolocation of the vehicle that is going to pick up this user actually match, because otherwise there will be no passengers being carried, there will be a low-level satisfaction from the end users, and in the end this will not work. So if you want to make these innovations work, such as DRT, as we are doing in the Julia project, with our partner, by the way, NEMI. NEMI is a startup that is leader in the Spanish market with DRT services and leveraging Galileo technologies since back in 2018 when they first were awarded a European project, by the way, called Galileo for Mobility by that time, also by that time funded by the USPA, by the same agency that is today funding the Julia project, to keep improving and raising visibility and awareness among public transport operators in this case, that the technology is ready, technology is mature, technology pays off to be implemented, because in the long run it will provide measurable and tangible benefits to the end users, that adoption is increased, and overall we can together reduce the impact of transportation in our smart cities.
Thank you, Josep. So basically you are proposing some kind of a Uber for buses.
Well, yes, but I mean, I frankly I don't like this Uber-like way of calling things.
Sorry.
But yeah, no. I mean, you're totally right. In a way, I can accept this kind of comparison. But yeah, I mean, it's making transport more accessible, more easier to use, more flexible, using digital devices that again rely on satellite signals.
So you were talking about efficiency in the transportation systems. So, and I agree with you. Sometimes you wonder, there are buses that are completely full, buses that are empty, or that two buses come one after the other. And as a user of the systems, you just wonder, why can this not
Exactly.
be managed in a better way?
Exactly.
So about efficiency, Ernest, I'm coming back to you as well, because you were talking about logistics. And also, I know you're also working a lot in asset management and asset tracking, which is also efficiency in there is also very important, also tied to what Laura was saying on the global supply chains. So tell us a bit more, how is your technology helping in that to make transportation more sustainable, working on these inefficiencies or efficiencies? How can this help?
So actually, what Josep was saying resonates a lot with what we do, because, for example, we did a project in the port of Bristol that was precisely about that. So one of the problems they were having is that when you go out of the port, sometimes you have these heavy transports that are very slow moving. They block the road. You have long queues of cars behind that because you have to wait, and you have traffic lights that turn red and stop everything. So, for example, one of the situations that we had to deal with is trying to coordinate the movement of these vehicles with the traffic lights. So we ensure that at least they don't stop. They cannot run, but they don't stop. So you increase the fluidity, let's say that way, of the transit. So if there is a congestion, this congestion takes less time to dissolve and to continue working. So that's obviously a thing that can also be applied to buses, public transportation, and also for responders like police, ambulances, all these kind of things. Try to guarantee that if something has to be fast, it can be fast because you can coordinate the elements in the city with the needs of that particular vehicle or that particular transportation. So this is one of the things that, that we are doing. What we need to achieve that, we need to use data from satellites, of course. It's what gives us the position. But we also need sensors. We also need certain infrastructure to give us information about what's happening between the satellite and the ground. And this is also very important because this information that we capture in our cloud is what we use to determine which potential errors we have and how to fix and correct these errors, so we give you a precise position and we don't tell the user of the service that the bus is 100 meters from here and the driver of the bus that, or the car that is picking that person that, no, the person is in the different place, so you have to match. Here in Barcelona, buildings, for example, are relatively low, so we don't have many problems, but if you are in the City of London, you can have easily an error of 500 meters if you check your position with your mobile phone, for example. That means that it's sending you 3-4 streets away from your real position. So that's one of the things that hinders the usability. And what we are doing is precisely solving these kind of issues and guaranteeing that, okay, we can tell you where you are with 1-2 meters accuracy, even if you are in the city, even if you are in any place. And this is how we are helping this kind of improvements in efficiency for mobility, for example.
Thank you. We have a few minutes left, so I think if you agree, I would like to give one of you the chance to just summarize maybe with a couple of sentences. How could you just tell other sectors how space can be of use in this new economy? So how can you help other sectors, or just like a closing remark linked to our table about how the new space economy can unlock potential in other sectors? Yeah.
So start myself. Right. So there is so many things, but simply try to think about any solution that could be used, like from an image. What can you see? How can you process that? What can you identify? Then you can use that. So yeah, well, exactly. Sorry.
Anyone else? Ernest, do you want to give it a go?
I would say that the key thing is telling people that don't be afraid of space and don't think it's something far away. One of the things we were having at the beginning is that people were not believing that space technology could help them. So before discarding, ask, explain your problem, and maybe there is a space-related solution that can apply to you, and it's not complex, it's not expensive, it's usable.
Okay, thank you.
I will build on your last remark, because I do believe this is important for the end users to not be afraid of technology, because technology, if well applied, can be extremely useful, extremely relevant for our needs, and particularly when it comes to mobility. As I said, I mean, it affects our everyday lives. All of us, right? Rely on transportation, rely on mobility, are stuck in traffic from time to time. So these kind of things do happen, and because we have in our pockets smartphone that provides accurate geolocation of us when we travel, when we move. By the way, increasingly incorporating multi-constellation receivers that leverage the signals from satellites from European constellation, so Galileo in this case. Without even knowing, we are accurately geolocated when we travel, when we move, when we use mobility services, and this helps us to move around and makes our lives easier. And whenever technology can provide ease of life and peace of mind for our needs, then is where technology demonstrates that is mature enough, that is there, that can be used and can be leveraged by innovators, particularly in the transportation space, to provide innovation and ease of use and peace of mind to the end users, and also to the transport managers that make that manage mobility and transportation systems. They need to rely on these kind of technologies in a way that facilitates them to operate public transport fleets and mobility in general.
And I'd rather say, why are you not using satellite data? I mean, it's the biggest amount of data that you have. It's global and it's completely untapped. We are here to decrease complexity, and it's perfect for the green transition and for the digital transition. So it's the time to use this data, otherwise you're not going to jump in the twin transition.
You are saying something that is interesting, is that maybe a lot of people don't know that, but we in Europe have a lot of available data for free that is for free. So there are commercial satellites, for example, that provide Earth observation imagery, but they are commercial and you have to pay for the data. But we do have programs in Europe that provide us this data for free. And it's true, the gap here is relying on companies like the ones we presented today here with their different expertises, but people like here, and they are local, they can help go from this vast amount of data to finding ways of using this data in a way that can help many, many sectors. Exactly. If I can summarize before we finish, I mean, Laura has talked about global supply chains, even the cosmetic industry, deforestation, climate change, finance, insurance, mobility, Josep, smart cities, micromobility, mass mobility, industry, logistics. You also touched on emergency services, first responders, blue economy. You also do a lot of things in agriculture as well. So I think we've mentioned so many sectors and the rest, because some of the things we discussed here could be applied and are being applied in tourism. They're applied in other types of industry. They are applied in health as well. We haven't discussed about health, but space also has a lot of inputs into health issues, education. So I think just to close this table and just to give this overview that space technologies and space data has this potential to unlock new services and a new economy. I think we tried to give here an example of lots of different applications. And I would like to thank you, our panelists, for the kindness at the time and to explain to us their cases and how their companies are helping in this respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing with us your knowledge about new space. I'm going to sum up in Spanish the principal keys. En esta sesión ellos han intentado desgranar cómo se está moviendo toda esta economía del New Space y ponían el foco también en lo importante que son los satélites, no solo para la cantidad de datos que generan, sino para que se usen usuarios y también todas aquellas empresas o, en este caso, pues, instituciones que puedan hacer uso de ellos para mejorar. Con un ejemplo muy claro, por ejemplo, el transporte público, estaban hablando, ¿no? De cómo podemos hacer que ese autobús pues, lleve pues, más gente, sea más eficiente, o al menos la gente que le toca, que no vayan vacíos. Básicamente que sea, como decíamos, un uso del transporte público mucho más eficiente a través de los datos que nos aportan estos satélites. Decían, hay que mirar también cuáles son los posibles errores que puede haber entre la distancia del satélite hasta que toca tierra, por qué fallan 500 metros desde esta posición a la otra. Bueno, son algunas de las cuestiones que se van o que han ido desgranando nuestros ponentes en esta sesión para que veamos cómo se está llevando a cabo estos nuevos negocios, este nuevo impacto de la nueva economía que se está llevando a cabo en el New Space. Dicen que el espacio no está tan lejos, que no hay que tener miedo a la nueva tecnología ni hay que tener miedo tampoco a lo que esté sucediendo ahí arriba, porque en realidad esto nos va a revertir de forma positiva. Tecnologías para usuarios y para gestores de transporte como beneficio comunitario o beneficio en conjunto. Así que estas son algunas de las conclusiones que sacamos de esta sesión muy interesante en la que nos ha acercado pues, todo este trabajo que se está haciendo desde las distintas empresas y también a nivel institucional. Muchísimas gracias, Claudia Mateo, desde la Fundación I2CAT por haber moderado esta sesión y a ustedes por acompañarnos y acercarnos ese conocimiento. Nosotros seguimos con más conocimiento sobre la aviación y sobre el sector aeroespacial y en este caso también el sector aéreo y cómo se gestiona en nuestro país. Ahora seguimos.
Fabricamos talento, fabricamos innovación y, cómo no, sostenibilidad. Fabricamos una nueva economía y un mundo nuevo, en 3D, por supuesto. Pero sobre todo, fabricamos futuro. Y es que fabricamos empleo para más de 137.000 trabajadores. Fabricamos oportunidades globales de negocio en un espacio de más de 10 millones de metros cuadrados. Y fabricamos servicios de vanguardia y ventajas competitivas para más de 175 empresas. Consorcio de la Zona Franca. Fabricamos oportunidades para tu futuro. Bienvenidos a The Factory Barcelona, la fábrica de talento, de tecnología, de innovación y, por supuesto, de Barcelona. Y es que The Factory consolida a Barcelona como la capital europea de la industria 4.0, de la digitalización, de la transformación, creando en la ciudad 1.500 puestos de trabajo directos y 5.000 indirectos, cerca del metro, del puerto y del aeropuerto, e impulsada por el Consorci de la Zona Franca de Barcelona.
Barcelona Activa et connecta quan busques feina o formació, quan vols emprendre o impulsar el teu negoci. Connecta amb Barcelona Activa i aconsegueix els teus reptes professionals. Descobreix com a barcelonaactiva.cat.
Barcelona es desconectar. Es volar. Barcelona es descubrir. Es compartir. Barcelona es tocar el cielo. Barcelona es parar el tiempo. Barcelona es vida. Es amar. Barcelona es única. Es un montón de likes. ¿Qué Barcelona conoces tú? Descúbrelas todas en barcelonaesmuchomás.es.
Por fin un banco que trata a las empresas como personas. Ibercaja, el banco del vamos.
Más de 314 millones de pasajeros han pasado por los aeropuertos del Grupo AENA en España y en el mundo. Un 23% más que en 2019, antes de la pandemia y anterior récord, y un 16% más que en 2022. En AENA hemos vuelto a demostrar que los nuestros son los aeropuertos más seguros, eficientes, sostenibles y acogedores del mundo, catalizadores de la economía y el turismo. AENA, aeropuertos para ti.